This is my walkaway video. I am not a bot. I might be part Russian somewhere down like my great-great-great-grandfather on my father's side of mother's family. But even then, I'm a real person. I'm sweating. I have crow's peak, gray in my hair, and I grew up in San Francisco, in the San Francisco area, most of my life until I moved, like almost 30 years ago, moved up here to Alaska. And it's been and still is predominantly Democratic liberal. I can't say progressive because I've noticed that there has been little to no progress or progressive ideas actually being pushed forward. I've seen people just scream and cry, foul, and blame Reagan for a lot of stuff. And I actually jumped up and shouted that, in the 80s. But I started to, even then, I was like, this doesn't seem right because there's nothing behind this shouting, no real facts. And if you look at all the facts, people still blame him for the AIDS crisis. And I grew up, I lived through that. I lived on the streets of San Francisco selling my body for money or a place to stay sometimes in the 80s in San Francisco. And everybody, it was like a big free-for-all. Everybody was having sex. People were doing drugs. It was still an extension of the disco era, just with punk and new wave music, Talking Heads instead of Donna Summer. But I heard these cries that, the left is taking all our rights away, they're bigots, and I actually started, I believed it a little. I didn't jump up and down because it's something in the back of my mind going, this doesn't sound right, even 35 years ago. And then I moved to Alaska, and I saw, what I loved about Alaska is your neighbors are your state legislators or the people on TV or everybody. Everybody knows literally everybody in Alaska. And I had some interesting, eye-opening conversations with a lot of Republicans, and civil, and they would open my eyes, and they would, instead of calling me names and saying, why do you're stupid, they'd ask me, why do I believe this? What facts do you have to back this claim? And I went, I don't. So maybe I've been wrong. Maybe all these other things have been wrong. And I've slowly started to erode away. I still held on to some, I still do hold on to some liberal ideas, like I believe in supporting abortion. But that's not my key. That's not my whole, I don't live my life around it. Gay marriage is pretty cool, but it's not life-threatening. I'm not getting beat up because I can't, I'm not being denied a job. There are some perks to legally being married to somebody, like if you die, you can go to the hospital and blah, 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 tax write-offs and money and buying a house together. Those are nice, and those are, affect people's lives, but not everyone. Not everyone gets married. Not everyone has to get married. It's not an important driving issue that should shun people just because they believe it. And this is what I've seen, is just constantly, if you don't believe in this, if you don't believe in, gay marriage, you're a bigot. Maybe they are. So what? Crying at, and screaming at people doesn't change their mind. This is behavior modification 101. And I worked in a field where I had to use behavior modification every single day. And we were told, and as you look at psychology books today, you kill people with kindness. You don't scream and shout at them. That's not going to get people to convert you to their, your side of thinking or your ideology. And it makes you morally inferior. And I kept seeing this, and I kept questioning, why are we doing this? And that's when I kept getting, called an outsider. The election comes, Donald Trump gets elected, and I posted up shortly after I started learning about Black Lives Matter, because I wasn't chiming in, because I go, this doesn't seem right. All I've seen from the left, white people, is that if you don't support Black Lives Matter, literally you are a racist, period. And that was the only, and still is, the only argument to support Black Lives Matter. If you don't support it, you're, racist. Then I started, going and talking to people who don't support it, and they gave me a whole bunch of actual facts and statistics And went, oh, and I posted up, why should I support a group that says, I hate white people, kill cops. And that's all I posted. And I said, let's discuss this. And no, you just don't understand their anger. You're a bigot. You're a racist. You're a white supremacist. That was it. That was the only, and it was a wall of hate on my Facebook page from that. And that's, I believe, the moment when I just didn't even bother to respond to any of that because there was no discussion going on. I posted up recently about Maxine Waters should be in prison for inciting to harass people publicly just because they have a different political ideology than hers. That is not protected by free speech. That is actually the proverbial yelling fire in a crowded movie house when there is no fire. Making a call to action to harass and harm people is not free speech. And that has fully cemented me. Walking away from that left, I still am going to call myself a Democrat, and I encourage people to say, look, we can still be liberal, we can still be Democrats, we just don't have to be crazy about it. And we can be reasonable with people who don't agree with us fully, like abortion. We can just say, look, let's table it. You believe yours, I believe mine. Let's table and talk about the things we do agree with. We don't want to, like here in Anchorage, we have a huge crime problem because there was a state bill that was passed that was supposed to help alleviate the economic burden that the state corrections program was being burdened the state budget with. And it turned out the way it was so poorly written, it just turned out that criminals now don't have to, you just get a slap on the wrist. Stores, a lot of businesses here have policies in Alaska that if somebody's shoplifting, you can't even say they're shoplifting. You say, hey, are you going to buy that? And you have to let them walk away. And it's all driven by this bill. And people are still supporting this because criminals are just misunderstood. We should just let criminals be criminals. We should just let lawlessness be lawlessness. But then they say, oh, I hear gunfire in my neighborhood and we should do something about it. Anyway, I think I've made a rambling point long enough that there's so many conflicts and so many contradictions from the left, and not just the far left, the left. And I've never been able to get a reasonable, sane, responsible, civil answer from almost anyone on the left. Almost anyone. And then just recently, Trump said something really asinine. Finally, there's something I can't defend. He said something that went over the line. Today, he apologized. And I thought they were calling for his apology, and now he apologized. And this is huge for a raving egomaniac. And we should be praising somebody for being humble enough to admit they're wrong. Everyone. And anybody says they're wrong, you should ingratiate them instantly, no matter who they are, no matter how bad you think they are. They apologize. You should accept the apology because that's how we learn and grow, and that's how progress gets made.